Hi everybody, it's Brian and I'm back with another Fusion 360 tutorial. I'm jumping in on lesson 9, which is really going to ultimately be about joints and assemblies, or components, as Fusion 360 likes to refer to them. But to get started, I wanted to kind of like walk you through very quickly drawing a couple easy geometries that I'm going to use to create components. So my thought here is if you follow along, you create these yourself and you have them saved, that you can go ahead and use them in the part where I actually talk about creating the joints and then ultimately creating movement using Fusion 360. We're going to draw this, what I'm calling a bone bar, kind of shaped a little bit like a bone, hence the term bone bar, as our first thing. So let's go ahead and get started on that. So I have an untitled new file here in Fusion. I'm going to go ahead and create a sketch, and I'm going to do this right on the top plane. I'm going to start with a circle right at the origin point, and I'm going to give that a diameter of 10 millimeters. That's a 10 millimeter circle. And then I'm going to create another circle outside of that, and I'm going to give that a diameter of 20 millimeters. So that's going to be the start of this kind of center hole here. And then we're going to go ahead, and because I'm going to end up mirroring some of its geometry above and below, we're going to use we're going to do two mirror lines next. So I'm going to create a line vertical here and make this a construction line as a center line, and I'm going to create another one along this axis here. This a construction line as well, and let's just give that a horizontal, there we go, relationship. Okay, because it's giving me an error because it's failed to solve it. I think it's because there's already it's already perpendicular to the other line, but ultimately that's fine because this one is vertical and that one is 90 degrees to it. That one has to be horizontal. Okay, I'm going to draw another circle here pinned to that line. We'll give that one a diameter of D1 because D1 is tied to this diameter, right? So it's solving for that. Again, if I don't have to type 10 twice, that way this hole will always follow what that hole is. And we are going to give this a distance of, I think I did 80 millimeters here. Okay, then we're going to do another circle here, like that, and we're going to have this have a diameter of D2, which will tie it to this one, so they're both 20. Now I'm going to go ahead and create an arc, 3-point arc, or rather a 3-point circle. I'm going to click 1 point here, 1 point here, and then maybe 1 point there. That looks good. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim this guy here and here. So I'm going to use my trim command. I'm going to get rid of that chunk, and I'm going to get rid of that chunk. And then this should be a separate piece I can just delete. So now I'm just left with that arc. So I guess I could have done a 3-point arc. I chose to do a 3-point circle. Now I want to create a tangency between this circle and this arc, and this circle and this arc. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and hold down Shift and click on this, and create a tangent. And I'm going to do the same. Oh, I got to move this in. That got pushed around, so we'll push that back over there. I'm going to do the same thing here. Here and create a tangency there, and then we're going to go ahead and give this a dimension, and this actually wants to be 150 millimeters is the radius of that. So that starts one half of my dog bone. I'm going to take this geometry here, whoops. I'm going to take this geometry here and I'm going to mirror it about this line. And that will enable me to trim out these sections. I'm going to go ahead and use trim, and I'll trim out this and that and that and that. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to steal this geometry, all of this. Oops, I have to hold down shift. That's why it's not selecting multiple things. Brian, there we go. And I'm going to mirror 1, 2, 3, 4 lines about my midpoint. And we'll click OK. And then I have one more trim to go, which is just to get rid of that section. Okay, so when I do that, that now completes that dog bone geometry that I'm going to go ahead and deal with. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch, and I'm going to go ahead and extrude this guy here. We're going to pull it out, and I'm going to switch my direction to symmetric, whole length, and I'm going to make it 5 millimeters in thickness. Right? So a little bit, somewhere around 1/4 of an inch. Because I want this to be a little bit nicer, I'm going to go ahead and just label this, just so I remember what it is as this design progresses. So I'm going to create a new sketch on this top surface, and we're going to throw a name on here. I'll just call it the bone bar. So we're in our sketch. We're going to go to create text, throw text. I don't want you to snap to anything. There you go. Bone bar. Oops. I should pay attention to what I'm doing here. This should be 10. Nope, 10's way too big, obviously. Go. That's good. Just sort of stick it on my bar here so that we have our text. All right, then I'm going to take that and we'll go ahead and just cut it out of the surface a little bit. So we'll extrude this guy down in, maybe millimeter, maybe 1/2 millimeter. 1 millimeter should be fine. Into the surface. There we go. And then I'm just going to soften up these edges with a fillet. So we'll do fillet, tangent chain, that's good. I'll select that guy and that guy, and we'll give this a radius of 1. Good. So there's my bone bar. So once I have this, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Save it, so I've got it. Okay, so that's the bone bar. Make sure you save it, give it a name. That's a really important part. Obviously, you know how to save things. But we want to save that because we're going to end up bringing that saved piece in as a component in the 3rd lesson. So I'm going to finish up the video now, and then we'll move on to our 2nd video, which I'm going to show you quickly how to draw. We'll do another design here that essentially mirrors these 3 holes so that we can use those in common with one another, but we'll give the thing a different outside shape just to make it a little bit different so we can see how these things interact with one another. All right, so that's it. Tune in for the next video so you can keep progressing on with your Fusion tutorials. Thanks for tuning in.